Good morning, YouTube. I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. We're going to jump in here with some more problems. I'm continuing on with the ISEE examples. Where you can get the file I'm using is in the description. And so let's just jump into this. We're just continuing on from where I left off the last time. So let me squeeze me to the side. I've changed my settings, so we should have less lag time, and I think clearer writing on the side over here. Okay, so we did 11 the last time. We're doing 12. Let me just move this a smidgen. Okay. So today, Josh's homework assignment increased by 1.5 times the amount of homework he was assigned yesterday. By what percent did his homework increase? So it's 1.5 times. So A is no good because that's 1.5%. That means 1.5 over 100. Percent means 100. So 50% means it increased to half, which basically means it decreased. 150 means, because 100 over 100 is 1. So we have 1.5. So 150 will be C. So this one's really just mapping that back and forth. Again, these questions are really ISEE questions, and they're trying to hit on fundamental concepts. So make sure that you're looking at these things right. So again, if you're not able to get the answer to these for the SHSAT questions, you're not going to get the harder questions. And any topic you can't get, you should start reviewing. Okay? All right, let me just make sure the connection's going. Yeah, the connection looks okay. Okay, 13. In this figure, a circle is inscribed within a square. What is the area of the shaded region? All right, so let's see what we have here. We have a square, which they're saying the length of each side is 6 centimeters, which means this is also 6, this is also 6, this is also 6. There's a circle inside of there. Okay, and they're shading this in here. So there's a few concepts flying around in here. They're asking for the area of the shaded region. So you need to know the area of a few things here. One is how to get the area of the square. Right? So there's kind of two concerns with the square. One is it says 6, but if you count the number of blocks here, I believe it's 8. So some kids may end up using 8. Luckily, they don't give that as one of the answers here. Okay? What they do is they give the perimeter. 1, 2, 3, 4 is 24. That's not the area, that's the perimeter. So some kids might get 8 times 4 is 32, and then just figure, oh, I did that wrong, and use C or D. Because a lot of people do 8 times 4 as 9 times 4. And in the event the area of the square is equal to 36. Let me make sure this is showing up on the screen. Yeah, there's less flutter on the camera now as well. And the area of a circle, there's the circumference, which is 2 pi r. There's also the area of a circle, equals pi r squared. If the length of the side of this was 6, therefore that's that. So we get the area of the circle equals pi times 3 squared, or 9 pi. Okay? And then what we have to do is we're going to get the whole area of this as if the whole square was shaded in. And then we're going to take out the circle part. And then we'll be left with the 4 corners. Okay? So that would indicate the answer would be D. Right? The whole square minus the circle part. This concept where we're taking a shape and using the whole and then taking pieces out of it comes up often in these kind of tests. This was a simpler one. Again, if this is too involved, you have to do more examples like this at this level first, and then bump it up into more of the SHSAT kind of style questions. Okay, 14 is actually a good question. I think it is, at least. There are 4 more girls than boys in Miss Alexander's class. If there are 8 boys in the class, what fraction of the class is boys? All right, so I think what most people are going to do is say, well, there's 8 boys, girls is boys plus 4, therefore girls is 8 plus 4 equals 12, and then set up the fraction as 8 over 12, and reduce that. I get 4 over 6, reduce that again, I get 2 over 3, and say that the answer is D. But if you did that, that would be wrong, because it's the total number of kids in the class. In other words, it should be boys over boys plus girls. That's the total. So that would give us 8 over 8 plus 12. That gives us 8 over 20. Reduce that, we get 4 over 10, and that's equal to 2 over 5. Okay, if I did that right, we should get A. Let me just double check I did that right. Boys, we got 8 over 20. Divide by 4. Yeah, 2 over 5. Right, so that was kind of, you have to read the question carefully and think it through carefully. Okay, 15. Let me make sure this is showing right, because the camera might be in the way for this question. Okay, the number of calories, Y, that an adult can burn by jumping rope depends on the number of hours X spent jumping rope. According to the formula, Y equals 250X plus 10. What is the meaning of 10 in this formula? So this is closer to more of a grade 9 question, although it could also be on grade 8. So we just have to go with the way things are presented to us. It's actually not too bad. So we notice that it's Y equals mx plus b form. Where this is normally the slope, and this is the intercept. So I haven't really looked at the question. I haven't looked at the answers yet, so I don't know which one will match what they're asking for here. So they're asking the meaning of this. Normally this is where it crosses the axis. For instance, the slope is positive, so we're going to have something like this. So B would be here. Okay? B comma 0. Oh, sorry, 0 comma B. So let's try to run through these and see which makes sense. For every 10 hours, so Y is how many calories we burnt, and X is the number of hours. So for every 10 hours spent jumping rope, 1 calorie is burned. No, nothing there seems to map with that. Okay, for every 1 hour spent jumping rope, 10 calories are burnt. No, for every 1 hour jumping rope, 260 calories are burnt. Because if X is the number of hours, we get 250 times 1 plus 10. C says, for 0 hours spent jumping rope, 10 calories are burnt. Well, yeah, if we plug in 0 for X, we get Y equals 10. So it means just standing there without jumping rope, you're burning 10 calories. So the answer seems to be C. Let's just rule out D to make sure. For when 250 hours are spent, 10 are burnt. No, that's not what that says, because that would be a large number. So the answer to 15 is C. Okay. On a map, 4 centimeters equals 100 kilometers. If 2 cities are 10 centimeters apart on a map, what is their actual distance apart. All right, so this is a standard ratio problem. Again, this is something, this often is on the SHSAT, and it's just a matter of mapping it back and forth. This one seems to be simpler than some of the other ratio problems. So again, if you get this concept wrong, you should run through ratios from the beginning and just keep going on it. So we know that 4 centimeters is 100 kilometers. So therefore they're asking is, if the two cities are 10 centimeters apart, then how many kilometers apart are they? So that's x. So we can solve this two ways. One is the cross product. So we're going to get 4x equals 100 times 10. 4x equals 1,000. Divide by 4 on both sides. X equals 250. Okay. We could also just observe it and notice that from here to here, it's 2.5 times, where it's 4 times 2 is 8, plus another half of 4 is 2 more, so we get 10. So if we do 100 times 2.5, we get 250. So we have a way to double check the answer here. Okay? So again, I'm hitting home that a lot of these are just fundamental ideas that they're trying to get across to you guys. If you're taking the ISEE, well, this is the sample for it, especially for grade 7 and 8. If you're going to 9 and 10, it's the upper one, which we're going to get to after all these, after I do these streams. Those will definitely be harder, and they'll be more or less very close to the SHSAT questions, even though any one of these could end up being a SHSAT question. Some SHSAT questions are easy, and they're just testing you on concepts. So we're just trying to take this a bite-sized piece at a time. All right. So according to the scatter plot, how much would a person expect a 1,000-foot square home to cost? So let's look at our figure. I like to normally do that first, even though I just read the sentence. So we have home prices. The bottom line is this area in square feet, and the left-hand side is the pricing. So for instance, if I go to 600, I see there's two prices there. One seems to be about 70,000. The other seems to be about, I'll say maybe 47,000. So they're asking what's going to happen at a 1,000 square foot. So if we go to 1,000, go up, there's no dot there. So what we have is a scatter plot, and we have to find basically a line of best fit. So what we're going to do is draw a line through that. Let me just show it here. If we have all this dots going on, we have to have something that's going to kind of go through the center here, so that if we drew up from 1,000, what would seem to be there? So if we go up from 1,000, it seems to be about 80,000, right? If we would draw this hypothetical line through the center of where the dots seem to be. So it would be 80,000. So again, this one is interpreting an illustration. Okay, 18, probability is definitely on the SHSAT, and you're seeing it here on the ISEE. So a bag contains 1 green, 2 red, and 2 blue marbles. A marble is selected at random and replaced before a second marble is selected. Based on the scenario, which sentence describes complementary events? So let's take a sentence at a time. So there's 1 green, 2 red, and 2 blue, which gives us 5 total. So if, for instance, a green is removed, then the probability of that is 1/5. If a red is removed, it's 2/5. So that's basically the meaning of the first sentence. The bag contains 1 green, 2 red, and 2 blue. So we're just trying to understand the total and the combinations of the things. Okay, a marble is selected at random. So any one of the 3, a green, a red, or a blue, is selected at random, and replaced before a second marble is selected. So if I select a green, the chance is 1 out of 5. If I put it back and select a green, the chance is still 1 out of 5. If I select a green and put it back and then select a red, it goes from 1 out of 5 to 2 out of 5. All right? If I select a red, which is 2 out of 5, put it back and select the blue, that's still 2 out of 5. Okay? So then it says, based on the scenario, which sentence best describes complementary events? So the past two of these, we haven't had really deep terminology, but in all the other ones, I think we came across terminology. So what does it mean, complementary events? So that's the key to answering this question. What's an event that's complementary? So if I have an event A, a complementary event means not A. So for instance, if I flip a coin and get heads, the complementary event is getting tails. All right? So let's run through the choices and see if we can get scenarios here that, that seem to counteract each other. So if the first marble is red, right? So it's saying you're selecting a marble and putting it back. The first marble is red and put back. Is the opposite of that selecting a green marble? I don't think so. Okay? If the first marble is blue, is the second complementary event that the first marble is blue, is the complementary event to that the second marble is also blue? No, you're doing the same act twice. So that's the same event twice. C, the first marble is green, and the second marble is blue or red. So think that through. So if there's three colors, green, red, and blue, the first choice you picked out a green, then the opposite of that is to not pick out a green. So it seems like not picking out a green would mean picking out a red or a blue. So that would be C. And let's just make sure we're understanding it right and run through D. The first marble is green, and the second marble is red or green. No, the fact that it could be green on the two picks would rule out D. Okay? So the answer here would be C. Okay, 19. Let me just make sure that the camera is not in the way of 19. No, it's not. Okay. In fact, let me drag the camera a little more into the picture here. All right, there we go. All right, so what is the value of n in the equation? 3 1/5 divided by 1 2/3 equals n. So first of all, that's a division sign. It's not a plus sign. So make sure when you're reading these problems that you're really giving them a good look-see. Especially on the screen, the computer screen, it can look like a plus sign. Your actual test paper, you need to know that you're looking at the right thing happening there. All right, the second thing then is to know how to do mixed fraction division. So there's a couple of answers there that if you solve them erroneously, you'll get the answers that they're presenting there. Right? So pretty much straightforward. The only way to solve this is to convert them. There's actually more than one way to solve it, but convert each fraction. So you have 3 1/5 and 1 2/3 to top heavy fractions. I write that right because I get the wrong answer doing that. So 3 1/5 becomes 16/5, right? And 1 2/3 becomes 5/3. So let's rewrite the problem then. So we have 16/5 divided by 5/3. Now some kids will start canceling this out already, but this is not multiplication, it's division. So this is a lot of kids forget this rule, that if you're dividing by a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. So that we multiply by 3/5, and that would give us 48 over 25. Again, I mentioned this yesterday. Know your multiples of 3. They come up often in these tests. And these are calculations you should have just at the tip of your fingers, the same as 4 times 4. Again, 15 times 3, 16 times 3, 17 times 3, 18 times 3. And they'll reverse this sometimes. They'll give you 57 and you'll have to calculate if that's divisible by something. And again, I showed you rules yesterday, like 5 plus 7 is 12, and 1 plus 2 is 3, therefore 57 is divisible by 3. But you should already have that in your head already. As well as squares, 12 squared, 13 squared, 14 squared, 15 squared, 16 squared, really all the way up to 20 squared. And at least be familiar with the numbers. If you can't memorize every single one, and there's only 5 or 6, so you should be able to. But if you can't memorize them, at least be familiar. Like, you know, I know there's something special about that number. Like if you see 169, you should be able to know that. Okay, the same for 51. So just run through some of them, and if you do it once a day, by the time test date comes, it'll be a no-brainer. All right. So we get 48 25ths. So all the answers are in mixed fractions. So we're going to get, let's see, if it was 2, we get 50. So it's 1, and we're just going to subtract this. We're going to go 3, 23. 1 and 23 25ths, which gives us B. Let me make sure that's right. Yep, it's B. Okay. So this one is kind of hard. Some kids will do 3 divided by 1 and get 3, and then do 1/5 divided by 2/3. I believe that's how you get C. I'm running through it in my head. I'm not sure how people get 5 1/3, but there must be another common error mechanism. So just when you see it like this, convert them into top-heavy fractions, and then just do the division by the reciprocal of the fraction, and then map it back. This one had no other simplification, because 23 over 25 can't be reduced in any other manner. Let me just make sure the stream is still running. Yes, it seems to be. Let's pound out the next one. Okay, let me make sure, because I think the camera's in the way of this one. Yeah, it is. Okay, what is the ratio of the length of the side of triangle ABC to the corresponding side of triangle GEF? So these are similar triangles. It even tells us that on the top. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle GEF. So when two triangles are similar, the ratio of the length of their sides is consistent. So CB, if you can find the ratio between CB and FE, it'll be the same ratio, for instance, between AC and DF. Okay, and if we look at it, we notice 5 to 15 is 1 to 3, 3 to 9 is 1 to 3, and 4 to 12 is 1 to 3. So the question is it 1 to 3 or is it 3 to 1? Well, it depends how they ask the question. They're asking ABC to DEF. So it's 1 to 3. If they ask DEF to ABC, then it will be 3 to 1. So it depends on a visualization here. This is similar to uploading or downloading and a whole bunch of other concepts. Like, or if you give somebody something, they're taking it. So it depends on your point of view. So when you're reading these questions, make sure you're understanding the point of view. Okay, 21. 21 is just understanding just some basic algebra things. So we can do n over 24 equals 14. We'll just have to wear. We don't need that. 14 over 21. So we just do the cross product again. 21n equals 14 times 24. So that's on the side, do 14 times 24. 4 times 4 is 16. 1, 4, 5, 8, 2. We get 6, 3, 3. I think we get 3, 3, 6. I like to flip them. So do 24 times 14. 4 times 4 is 16. 1, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. We get 4, 2. We get 6, 3. Right, we get 3, 3, 6. So we get 21n equals 3, 3, 6. and we're going to divide that by 21. 21 goes into here once, so we get 12, and we get 126. So 5 is 105. 6 is 126, so we get 16. Okay. So the answer looks like it's 16. B. What question number is that? 21. Yes, it is. So let's double check it. Let's plug it in. 16 over 24 equals 14 over 21. Okay, we can simplify this. And let me use space over here. We can run through the cross product again, or we can just see what we can get out of simplifying these things. 14 over 21. Okay, and by the way, that's one way to have solved this in the first place. If we divide this, we notice we could simplify this. Dividing by 7, we get 2 over 3. Okay, once you see that, times 8 gives us 16. Okay? And since we now know this can be reduced to 2/3, if we take 16 24ths by a fifth, we divide by 8, we get 2, divide by 8, we get 3. So they both map in. Okay? We could also cross product this, make sure that's double checks with that too. We don't need to go that far with this problem though. Okay, 22. Again, is about the slope, but it's also just understanding an algebraic equation as well. So we know, as in the other example, we're trying to shoot for a y equals mx plus b scenario here. So if we have 4x minus 7y equals minus 14, okay, a lot of kids are going to copy this problem wrong. Actually, you're not going to copy it. You can have it on your test paper. You're allowed to write on your test paper. But as you're trying to solve it, you're probably going to write it on the side, and you're going to leave out a minus sign. So make sure you throw away points doing stuff like this. This is your attention to detail, your mastery of math, just copying correctly. Right? You have to pace these questions out and do them about 2 to 2.5 minutes each, or if even faster, 1.5 minutes, if you're really pacing well, because there's the ELA part of whether we have to contend with as well. This is a question where you should just blow through this in seconds, literally. So you don't want to make a silly mistake. This is a point being given to you, so make sure that you got it right. Okay? I got messages popping up here. What is the slope of the line? So we need to get it into this form here. So let's just start doing stuff. Let's add 7y to both sides. So we're going to get 4x equals minus 14 plus 7y. Okay, we're going to divide both sides by 7. So we're going to get 4/7 x equals 7 into minus 14 is minus 2. 7 into here is that. Okay, so what we're going to then do is add 2 to both sides. So we're going to get y equals 4/7 x plus 2. Okay, so m is the slope, 4/7. All right, and I'm looking at the answer, and it's correct. So I don't need to double check that. But I would, since this is slippery enough, and again, you have to do it in seconds. It's easy peasy. All you do is mapping. You're trying to get y equals. Okay, don't do a problem like this in your head. Actually write it out. And again, make sure you're doing the signs, the original minus 14. And again, when you bring the minus 14 to the other side, make sure that you're making a positive 14 at that point. All right? And then when you do the division, in this case, we didn't bring it to the other side, but we had a minus 2. We had to make sure we brought the minus 2 across correctly to be positive 2. So make sure you're doing these things. Again, don't solve a problem like this in your head. I see a lot of kids doing stuff like that, and they almost, your chance is 50-50. You're not thinking straight. It's a high-stakes test, and you're going to screw it up. Okay, 23. Joey has 4 pairs of pants, 6 shirts, and 2 pairs of shoes. I would stop right there and ask myself, how many combinations are there? So combination questions come up all the time. Okay? we don't know what the question is yet. We're just going to stop there at the comma and figure out the choices. The way to get all the combinations is just multiply them out. 4 times 6 times 2. So you can do it in any order you want, as long as you get 48. You can 6 times 4, you get 24 times 2 is 48. You can do 2 times 4 and get 8, and 8 times 6 is 48. So it's 48 combinations. So we can kind of rewrite the question. Joey has 48 combinations of pants, shirts, and shoes, if you want to look at it that way. But only one favorite pair of pants, one favorite shirt, and one favorite pair of shoes. If he randomly selects an outfit, what is the probability that that outfit will contain that favorite shirt, that favorite shoes, and that favorite pants? Okay? With this 48 chances, and this is one combination of it, it's 1 out of 48. All right? So again, there's 2 concepts here. One is figuring out the total number of combinations, and the other is mapping the words into the math. So again, if you're having a problem with this, go back to permutations, go back to combinations, and start running through examples from the beginning. Because the SHSAT problems are actually going to be, this actually could be one straight up, but there's normally a little twist they add to it. So you want to make sure you're observant of those things. And if it's blowing your mind at this level, it's going to blow your mind at the more complicated level. And you don't want to hunt and peck, even though, yes, a test taking skills to run through the answers and see which one seems to be the best when you don't know the answer. But this is the kind of question where you do want to know the answer. Again, don't throw away points on a question like this. Okay, 24. Let me just make sure the stream is still going. Yep, seems to be okay. By the way, that's what I'm trying to hit home to in using these SHSAT-like examples, that if you're not going to get the fundamental concepts, you're not going to get the more involved things, okay? So this is critical with the SHSAT questions, because that's eventually where we're going to lead to. I did a lot of grade 7 YouTubes. I did a lot of grade 8 YouTubes based on the grade 7 and grade 8 state tests. I even did some grade 9 integrated algebra stuff. I'm trying to give you guys a ton of basics so that when you get into the next step, you have all those fundamentals down. So again, I'm Greg at GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I'll tell you that in a second. Please like, subscribe, and go look through all my other YouTubes. There's a ton of stuff there, and it's helpful. It's dry material, but the ISEE is the Independent Schools Entrance Exam. It's normally used for a lot of private schools, especially here in New York City, like Dalton. I forget the other names of some of them. There's a dozen of them. You know, the upper west side, upper east side kind of schools. A lot of rich people go to them. If you went to prep for prep, you're going to schools that are similar to, that require this entrance exam. They normally pay for schools. You might be paying $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. But it's also useful in a lot of private schools throughout the country. And by the way, this test, the one we're actually looking at now, is used by the Boston exam schools. There's 3 schools in Boston that are analogous to the specialized high schools in New York City. And this is, they use 50% of the GPA, and then 50% of this ISEE test. They used to use 100%. They're going through the same controversy about diversity as we're going through here, so they're trying to present solutions, so they went to 50-50. So a kid, and by the way, you enter in grade 7 there, so you don't enter in grade 9. So a kid might be going through this test in grade 6, okay? At least for the Boston exam schools. So that's kind of the analogous situation I'm trying to present here. But for the purposes of the SHSAT, the fundamentals have to be gotten down. Because if you can't get the fundamentals, you're going to be all wishy-washy when you get to real SHSAT questions. You're going to be like, I kind of know it. Know it. That's part of the point of doing prep and review. And in all these topics you should know anyway. All right, so 24. Missy conducted a survey to find out how many of her classmates had dogs, cats, or fish. She displayed the results in the circle graph shown below. Okay, so again, normally I like to look at the graph first. So it's showing half the owners own dogs, 40% own cats, and 10% own fish. Okay, so which data corresponds to the sample of pet owners? Okay, let me just make sure this is showing on the screen because this example is taking the whole screen. Let me just make sure it's there. Yes, it is. Okay. So let's just run through it. This is one where they're giving us the answers, and we have to test these answers. It's not like we can just use that and calculate the answer and then look and see if it's right. So it's saying there's 10 dog owners, okay, 5 cat owners, and 5 fish owners. What seems to me that if the dog owners are 50%, that if there's 10 dog owners, there must also be 10 cat and fish owners to combine together. Okay? Let me do something here for a second. 24. So A matches that, but A doesn't match from another context, which is that it's saying the number of cat and fish owners are 50-50 within themselves. That would imply they're both 25%. So that doesn't work. We know there's 40% cat owners. So let's try B. B says there's 10 dog owners. So again, there should be 10 fish and cat owners. So we have 8 plus 2 is 10. So is 8 40%? So we can set up some comparative fractions and see if it turns out to be the case. So if 10 dog owners is 50%, right, which is equal to 1/5, by the way, is 40% equal to 8? So we can do the cross product. Yes, it is. And we can also check for the fish. Is 2 the same as 10? 5 times 2 is 10. Yes, it is. So that jives there. Okay. In C, we get 15 and 10. That doesn't match. And just to double check D, we get 10 and 20. That doesn't match. All right. So 24 matches up here. Okay. 26 is one that just gets thrown in here. This could look like a New York State grade 6 question, really, but it's just making sure you're astute in reading the question properly. Let me make sure it's showing because I think the camera is definitely blocking this one. Okay, so Tom's soccer coach has a rule that the team cannot play until the temperature is 22 degrees Celsius. The current temperature is given below. So again, let's analyze what we see here. We have Celsius. There's no mention of Fahrenheit. The gray area seems to be where the temperature is going up to. So it's between 0 and -10. So we can assume the temperature right now is -5. Okay? It's saying they cannot play till they get to 22. So let's see what the question is. By approximately how many degrees must the temperature increase before the team can play? So one way to look at a thermometer is it's just basically a number line on its side. Right? See it that way? And again, if you can't visualize these things, just knowing this, you're allowed to turn your papers during the test. Turn the paper and twist it. If you can get the right topology in your head. Just to understand that this really is just the number line. So it's saying approximately because we don't know if this is exactly -5. It could be -6. It doesn't look like it's -4. So we have from 0 to -5 is 5, and from 0 to 22 is 22. So for 26, our answer choices are here. And it's D. So we did it right. You can also just do it mathematically. 22 minus 5 is equal to 22 plus 5. And that's equal to 27. Okay? By the way, is there any lag coming in between the time I'm speaking and not? I tried to make some adjustments so that, because I noticed the lag is sometimes about 30 to 60 seconds long. And sometimes it's 15, and it keeps going back and forth. So wondering if it's a little better than it was on all the other YouTubes, especially the live version. It seems to match up better when on the replay. So okay, 27 in the equation, x minus 7 plus 2 equals y. What is the value of x minus y? So this one's just mapping the algebra back and forth. All right, so it closed a little bit. Also, the other ones, especially on the live version, I have a fan going up. The fluttering was causing a lot of potatoing. I believe there's no more potatoing, right? Because I did some tests yesterday. Only 2 seconds? Okay, that's really good, especially given the bandwidth of YouTube as well. So let's write this down. X minus 7 plus 2 equals y. So we have two constants here. So we're going to get x minus 5 equals y. And they're asking for x minus y. So if I subtract y from both sides, I'm going to get x minus 5 minus y equals 0. And then I'm going to throw 5 on the other side. X minus y equals 5. Okay? And we can take that. Well, I was going to plug it in, but there's no way to plug it in. Although if you bring y over here, we get 5 minus 7 is minus 2 plus 2 is 0. So it'll jive there. Okay? So the answer for that is that. Okay, 28 is not a problem you will see on the SHSAT, although you should intellectually and mathematically know how to do it. So we have three kind of patterns going on at once. One is shapes, the other is count, and the other is orientation. So we have shapes, they're all little black circles. So that one just falls apart, falls to the side. Then we notice we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the next one would have 7 balls. But the way they're building it is 2 to a row, and then going from the left to the right. Next row to the left, to the right. Next row to the left, to the right. So the next obvious permutation following that, the orientation, the count, and the number of balls would be C. Okay? So again, the SHSAT doesn't ask this. Obviously, the ISEE does. Okay, 29 is a cute problem. This could be a SHSAT question. Sometimes there's fundamental algebra or arithmetic questions on the SHSAT. Also, solving something like this could be the second or third or even fourth part to a probability question. So you still need to understand how to do this. And again, not knowing this is throwing away a point. Probably more than 1 point, because it's going to be applicable to numerous questions at some level. They're just asking it for 29, just straight up here. So of the 45% of a class that passed the oral part of the exam, 2/3 passed the written part. What fraction passed both parts? So the solution to that is just multiply them. So we have 45 over 100 times 2 over 3. And we get 90 over 300. Multiply, divide, well, let's get rid of a 0, depending on how you want to do this. 90 over 30, divide by 3 equals 3 over 10. So that would be B. Yep, 29 is B. Okay, some kids might do 0.45 and convert this to 0.67. Just keep it as fractions as long as you can. You also could have collapsed this simpler. Divide by 5, got 9 over 20. And we could have done this like this, and this like that, and that all cancels out. We would just got 3/10 without doing any math at all. A lot of examples work this way, where if you set them up, you can cancel out a lot of the numerators and denominators. Okay, this happens quite often where the numbers just work out. All right, 30 is taking up the whole screen, so let's start out by looking at the graph, and then we're looking at the words, and then trying to figure out the answer. Of course, it's not going to fit on the whole screen, and I think if I shrink it, it's going to be too small. All right, so we have a graph about water tanks. The x-axis is talking about time. They're showing us 1 through 8. The y-axis talks about the height in feet. I guess they're filling up the water tanks with water. So let's just look at some stuff. For instance, water tank number 4. It seems the height of the water stays the same through that whole period, because it's a straight line going across. So at any timeline, it's 6 feet high. Okay, if we take tank number 2 and 1, those are increasing as time goes by. So as time increases, those are getting more water. So for instance, if you look at time 0 for tank number 1, it's 3 foot. And if you look at time 8, it's going up to 15. And water tank number 2 will work the same way. And water tank number 3 is losing water. It either has a leak or somebody's using it. So for instance, if you go to 2 hours, it's 13 on tank number 3. And if you go to 6 hours, it's 11. Okay? So let's scroll this up a bit. Okay, we can show the illustration now. Well, let's go back to the original words. The graph shows the water level in each of the 4 different tanks over an 8-hour period. Okay, we knew that from analyzing the graph. Which tank has the greatest hourly increase in water levels? All right, so we pretty much already answered this. There's no increase in water level for tank number 4. Let's solve this visually. We can solve this visually and mathematically. So let's do it visually first. 4 is no good because it stays constant. 3 is no good because it loses water. So the answer is between 1 or 2. But if you look at the slope of the lines, the way they're slanted, tank number 1 is gaining more water over that period of time than tank number 2 is. We know at hour number 4, it surpasses it. Right, it surpasses tank number 1 at hour 4. So we just know that from observation. We could also take points in these things where they cross the axes. For instance, to compare 1 and 2, we see that they both intersect at 4, 9. So that's the bottom point. And then we can take another point for, say, tank number 2 at 8, 10 and figure out its slope there. And we can also go to tank number 1 from 4 and 9 as one point, and the other point being 8, 16, and figuring out the slopes, and whichever slope is larger is the one that's increasing the best number of water. All right, so this is pretty clear from that, though. Okay, 31. Okay, 31 is a great question. In fact, it's so good, I hope I don't goof it up showing it to you guys. There's probably a few ways to solve this. So if 3/5 of a bucket can be filled in 1 minute, how many minutes will it take to fill the rest of the bucket at the same rate? So it's talking about the word rate. And we notice we're comparing things. 3/5 to a minute, how many minutes for the rest? So we can solve this by using a ratio. So let's set it up. 3/5 is to 1 minute as how many minutes, that's what we're looking for, is to the rest. Well, what's the rest? It's got to be 2/5. So we're just back to solving cross product things. 3/5 x equals 2/5. We're going to multiply by 5/3 on both sides. This cancels out. We get 2/3. Okay? 2/3 is not one of the answers here. Well, you should know if you do 3 into 2, you're going to get 0.6 repeating. So we have two uses of that. We have B and we have D. So it says how many minutes will it take to fill the rest of the bucket. It's not asking how many minutes to fill the whole bucket. We already know it took 1 minute to do the 3/5. So if it takes 2/3 of a minute and a half, the total is 1 2/3, but they're not asking what the total is. They're asking just the total for the extra 2/5. All right? So the answer would be B. We can also solve this another way, that if 2/3 is to 1 minute, right? This colon here means 2. It's another way of expressing a ratio. Sorry, let me do that over. If 3/5 is to 1 minute, then 1/5 is 20 seconds. Right? Therefore, 2/5 is 40 seconds. So 40 seconds is how much of a minute? It's 40 over 60. And again, we can get 4/6 and then 2/3. So we still come down to the same kind of numbers. All right, I have to move this over. I moved it over for the example. I noticed that the camera is cutting off. So give me 1 second. All right, so especially on the replay, you can kind of write this down and then kind of backtrack over my words just to map the numbers in here if you didn't get it as I was saying it. Okay, this is standard ratio stuff, and again, it's 2 ways to do it. If you have time, always use the 2 ways because you're double checking stuff. The opportunity of making a silly error or even a non-silly error is high, so you definitely want the 2 ways to do it to double check a lot of your answers. All right, I'm going to do a few more problems here. Actually, let's see, what question am I up to? 31. Yeah, let's do one more problem. And I'll leave the other one to tomorrow or some other day. But this one kind of threw me for a loop because I was not familiar with this, the way they're presenting this. Actually, let me move the camera out of the way completely because it's blocking the screen. And we don't need to use it for this, really. So I normally say look at the illustration first. The problem is there's 4 illustrations here, and they're the answers to the questions. So normally illustrations are not used as the answers. In some cases, for graphs they are when they're asking about slopes or things intersecting, or what graph might be a function or a non-function, then they might do it. But something like this is often rare. Truth of the matter is I wish they would use it more. But in any event, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here without looking at the words. In fact, when I first read this, I wasn't sure how to map the illustrations to the words or the words back to the illustrations. So in any event, this 4 illustrations, they're all using red, white, and blue, and they all seem to have numbers associated with them. What time does that end? Because I want to test different times and so on. But I know some other kids have Dream as well. So, um, in fact, I know some kids are doing Discover in the morning as well. So if it was at say 1:30, is that too early? Um, although I'm probably more apt to do it maybe at 4:30 or 5:30. Um, although morning streams work too. It depends what I'm doing that day. What's going to happen too is as we get deeper into this, as we get to the next level of this, or even other questions, we're going to slow down a little. I could probably do 25 questions today. I have no idea how many I did. Um, what question are we up to? I think we started 11, so we did 22 or something already. It's hard to do hard problems at that speed unless we last for an hour and a half or something like that. So, um, oh, okay, all right. So that might match because I've been doing any other streams after basically 3:30. So yeah, 4 to 5 probably, and it might make sense to kind of piggyback off of Tyler's as well. That way, people don't have to kind of make multiple commitments. It's all one large stream. Although your minds will be blown probably at that point, but you know, plus my schedule, I have to do things dealing with my own schedule as well. So and I'm okay doing a live stream with nobody watching it. By the way, again, I'm Greg at GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Please like, please subscribe, please share. You can email me any questions, guys, and I'll try to help you out or make it one of the next YouTubes. Right now, I'm just following tests, so I'm not really asking for equations to solve live, so to speak, even though that's what I'm doing here. But in any event, okay, so let's do this last one. So a spinner has 3 equal sized sections that are colored red, white, and blue. All right, so stop. So we have a red, white, and blue that are equal size. So it's again this concept of a fair spinner. A number cube has 6 sides, so it's a dice or a die, numbered 1 through 6. Okay, so it seems like they're going to use both of them simultaneously. They're going to spin the spinner and roll the cube at the same time. Okay, using an outcome table. So that's what these seem to be, an outcome table. Jake wants to find the probability of spinning red and rolling a number that is a factor of 6. Okay, which table is that? So if 6 has a factor, you have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. That's it. So the dice can be 1, 2, 3, or 6. Okay, and the spinner has to be red. So you have 1 out of 3 there, and 4 choices out of the other. And if you look at the tables, you start analyzing them. Seems the only one that kind of matches that kind of concept of that combination is A. So this is really running through them and seeing which really jived with that. Because if you look at B, it's shading in yellows. C is shading in yellows. Even D is shading in yellows. It also has blue and so on. And if you look at, wait, I'm only looking for red. Oh, okay, A has the reds. And wait, what were the factors of 6? 1, 2, 3, and 6. And A seems to just represent that. Again, B has 1, 2, 3, and 6 shaded in, but has other colors. C has 2 and 4. 4 is not a factor of 6, and D has 5. So it just jives that even if you're not if you are not familiar with this kind of table structure, that's what's going on here. All right, so everybody have a good day. I'm going to end this on this note, and we're going to do a part 7. It's probably going to be the last one for this middle thing. Again, look in the description. There's a link to how to get the file that I'm using here. And again, we're going to probably at some point do the next one. I'm not necessarily, don't know when, because I want to also do ELA and some other topics as well, including more SHSAT specific questions, including grade 9. By the way, I also did a whole series of these already about grade 9 and other things like that. Again, I'm Greg at Greg's Tutoring, GregsTutoringNYC@gmail.com. You can get my email at the bottom if you're not catching that. Please like, subscribe, and share. All right, guys, have a good day.